Hi, I'm Avik Sarkar. I'm the marketing director for Kellogg's South Africa. It's been a year that I'm in this country and I'm loving it. We are in this country for the last 99 years, so next year we'll be actually completing 100 years in South Africa. For us, it's about being relevant to the consumers and also have a purpose for the brand, offering some outstanding and great food for different sets of people across South Africa. We also we have an entire Better Days program, which is actually we're feeding children in the school across South Africa. I think the moment consumers feel that it's a brand that is talking their language is when you tend to localize a brand. While our overall brand strategy and the ideas are pretty much consistent across different markets, it's important for us to ensure that we talk the local language, more in terms of the way we are coming across as a brand for South Africans. How we are meeting a different consumer need which is relevant in South Africa becomes one of the most critical aspects and one of the biggest pillars of growth for Kellogg. I think one of the biggest pillars of our growth has been understanding the trends that we're observing. And we always go to Google Trends. We always go to Google Search, because hand on heart, anybody who wants to search anything these days, the first thing they do is go to Google Search. So we have our entire internal digital marketing team who helps us with various search trends across South Africa, across different benefits and food and needs that we're observing. That actually helps us identify and come up with a strategy which is far more relevant from a consumer language rather than being coming up from a manufacturer's house. I think, for example, if there's one thing that comes to my mind is over a period of time we have realized the importance of fiber intake in South Africa, and over the last 2 years the Google search of fiber has actually gone up. Now, that was one of the big reasons why this year we had an entire campaign around fiber and one of our brands, which is Kellogg's All brand. And in the last 6 months, we have realized that we've increased in penetration, we've gone to new households, and which is predominantly driven by all the young audience of 25 to 40 years. I think any CMO will always answer by saying budgets. Every CMO would love to have more money to spend. But it is important for us to understand what is the core requirement of the brand strategy and the objective of our brand, and how is the media and how are the different media mix coming into play. I think connecting to consumers, going to the market once a while to ensure that what's happening there in the trade, how are people consuming our brands, buying our brands, I think there you get most of the answers. In Kellogg's South Africa, in the last 1.5 years, our consumer immersion budget spends, in fact, have actually doubled. And we have gone from Durban to Pretoria to Cape Town, and we just spoke to consumers just to understand what they are doing, why they are consuming us, what kind of food they are consuming, what are their habits, what are their daily routine, and how relevant is our brand in their life. And how can we fit in? Because it's important for CMOs to understand the brand is not just consumed. I think the only advice and the only thing that I have in mind is continue to invest in people. And there are two sets of people. Invest in people internally in an organization, because without people in an organization, there's no organization 5 years down the line. Invest people like consumers. But be very choiceful in terms of how you're planning to target them, because you can't have a blanket targeting for everything. And that is where the marketing team or the CMO steps in to have that clarity in terms of keeping in mind the brand objective, the brand purpose, and also the kind of investments that we have. And that's how I feel should be the next 5 years in terms of investing people internally and investing in our consumers in the right possible way. The way I see it, it's marketing is not an expense, it's more like an investment. So the kind of money that we put in now, we might get the return tomorrow, but there are times when we get the return after a few days, after a few months, after a few weeks, or maybe after a year. I think it depends on the kind of investment we are making. It's like a long-term sustainable growth that I'm looking for, and how marketing investment is part of that long-term sustainable growth and not just growth for the next month. I think there are a few things which won't change, which is how relevant we are for the consumers. But there are a few things that changes in terms of how we evolve with age. I think one of the big successes that we've had in South Africa and Kellogg is the whole journey on granola that we have had. So 2019, 2020, around that time, we were close to around 6% market share in the entire granola muesli category. And it was somewhere on end of 2020 when we came up with the whole strategy around how do we double our shares in granola in South Africa. When we did a lot of number crunching, we realized there are 2-3 key pillars which actually would have been the big driver for us. So one was the food. The food is everything. How do we create that appetizing appeal for the food? How do we create that path-breaking communication where people will actually start eating from the phone or the laptop? Because that's the level of appetizing food that we are talking about. So we came up with that whole communication on indulgence, that it's a food that you can really indulge on because it's healthy and it's tasty. Then we said that how can we keep it versatile? It's a food that can not only be consumed in the morning during breakfast, it can actually be used in multiple ways. So we tied up with foodies of South Africa and we came up with an entire campaign around using granola and create different recipes. Apple pie, bars, cake, pastries, and there were multiple recipes that we created. And that actually unlocked a lot of growth for us, because when consumers realized the power of the food and how they can use that in different ways and consume that in different occasions, is when in a span of 2 years, our market share actually more than doubled from almost 6 to maybe somewhere around 13-14% that we are sitting at this point of time, which actually shows the power of the right targeting that we have done in the right way.